We're going to reveal the real reason why Manchester United want Zirkzee, and it is not what you think, and we're going to tell you exactly how a Bayern Munich flop went on to become one of the most sought-after strikers in Europe, all whilst doing it in one of the strangest tactical setups that we saw last season. So who is Joshua Zirkzee? Well, people unfamiliar with Serie A won't know that much about Zirkzee, and we need to address this. We need to get you up to speed because there's a common misconception about Zirkzee that he's sort of one thing when the truth is he's actually the total opposite, and the truth is really, really exciting. Now, it's easy to make assumptions on Zirkzee based on his height and to think that he's a target man, and don't get me wrong, he can do that. And people are doing that. But why are some people comparing him to Ronaldinho whilst others are comparing him to Wout Weghorst? What's the truth here? And who's right? And can you even handle the truth? I just always wanted to say that. So let me paint a bit of a picture here for you guys. What about his role in build-up? So to understand Zirkzee, we need to tell you about the sort of weird side that Bologna were last season. They're wonderful, but a little bit strange in terms of how they play. Different. And this is how they lined up on paper in what is essentially a 4-1-4-1, with Zirkzee leading the line on his own. However, with the heavy emphasis on possession and control, the way their team actually looked within the context of a game was more so like this. So what you notice here is that both of their wingers stay high, whilst the centre midfielders also move as wide as possible. So that means that there is an emphasis on making the pitch as big as possible. But the risk with this is that Zirkzee in a central position would possibly get that a little bit isolated. But he was actually never isolated throughout the season, and the key in how he avoided that was in his movement. And that's where we're going to start with Zirkzee. So a word that follows Zirkzee around all the time is versatility. This stems from his time at Bayern Munich and his time on loan at Anderlecht, where he mainly played as a central striker, but sometimes would be deployed as a left winger as well. And you can tell that he's brought aspects of both of those to allow him that versatility into the role as a 9, especially in the build-up phase, but mainly because he has multiple ways of receiving the ball. So this first clip is one example of how he does this. And as we mentioned earlier, the emphasis with Bologna is possession and also possession out wide. So what that means is with Zirkzee, he has a lot of space there to use and therefore passing lanes to create. So his body position here, if we zoom in, you can see he looks like he's kind of going in behind. He's not really interested in the ball at all. But if we zoom out and zoom along, you will see something very, very different. And his body position is crucial. And there is something very adept with him when it comes to his desire to deceive and his understanding of his opposition when it comes to that. And as a target man, if we're starting with that area of it in terms of build-up as a central striker, what he does really brilliantly is he utilises that understanding, that natural talent that he has. Because initially he's positioned where he's possibly going to go in behind. But if we move it on one, what he does is kind of checks and then creates this lovely long passing lane and ends up getting the ball here as well. That comes down to having some synergy with the players that you've got and being well drilled as a team as well. But he pushed that back line deeper to then create that space that he wanted. And I think it's a really good place to start because, again, time and again, he kind of knows what the opposition are doing. He knows what his marker's doing. And that's a huge strength for, again, a target man because he's not really that. And that secondary movement is really, really impressive. As I said, with this one, it's such a simple way of doing it. But if he does just sort of stand on his man, then, you know, that's one thing and that passing lane isn't open. But by doing exactly what he did here, which was go here and then drift forwards, he creates that space and creates that distance, importantly, with him and his defender. If he just moves in that first space here initially, without doing that initial movement that way, then the defender would just be nice and tight and it would make life very difficult for him. But he's not a one-trick pony because he doesn't always just push and then drop deep. Other times he will just go into an awkward space. He's been given that freedom at Bologna, and this is a great example of that. So here is an area where he's actually come and stood here instead of being that central striker, making it very awkward, both in terms of that overload on the right-hand side, but picking up a very difficult space where he is, and he's able to get the ball and then affect the game from there, turn, and he can drive, or he can play wide, or if he wants to start again, he can do that as well. So he's got so many different ways to utilising his ability to hold up the ball and actually get in behind the opposition as well, kind of becoming a 10 at times here. He's got great understanding of spacing and the correct time to receive the ball as well. And so we've established that he's very good as a lone striker and why his positioning allows him to excel as that leading line. But that's not the reason why Man United are interested in him. And it's way more exciting than that. Because goals and assists, are crucial, right? That's why they're going to go and buy a player like this. What is the point in having a striker if he doesn't score goals? He scored 11 goals last season in Serie A, but also he created 11 big chances, which shows how complete he is, whilst taking us back again to that word, versatility. So this next clip I love. I think it's so clever in terms of what he does. And it's about seeing things that others don't. He scores a goal in this clip, but also he kind of creates the chance as well. So first off, he takes up this position that we highlighted earlier where he's kind of stepped off into that little space there, off the centre-backs. He's creating his own space. And what he does next, I think is so rare when it comes to that big striker. So obviously they're on their way, but there's a player that you need to focus on here. I'll give you a second. Who is it? Is it him? Is it him? Is it him? Is it him? I think he was okay. I'm sure he was okay.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Which one is it? Let's keep going and I'll tell you exactly who. So he ends up getting the ball here. What do you expect him to do? I think the simple thing is, of course, to play that pass out wide. That wouldn't be a bad pass. If you go there, he can make his way into the box. And if we look at the body language of the defence, they think the same. Obviously, we've got a man tracking his run or attempting to, but he's kind of looking at what's going to be happening next. I think he's almost on the half turn to wonder if that pass is either going to come here or to here. But I think the overall understanding is that he's going to make that pass out wide and stretch the play. But he's seen something that many probably haven't. If we go back one, and this is what I love about him. When he drops into that space, he's thinking about the body language of others. So he's able to open up and make the pitch nice and big and make it difficult for the opposition in terms of are they coming this side or this side of me. But the player that I think is really important here that he spotted the body language of Christensen and the run that he's making. He is going. He's on his way. So having that in the back of his brain, I thought was really clever from Zirkzee because he doesn't play that pass. He plays this pass. Cutting out two, making them have to turn, making life very difficult, and utilising that third runner to get in behind. A very different way of doing it, but again, someone who's thinking 2-3 steps ahead. And with how drilled these teams are these days, having these players who've got that little bit of flair is going to be more and more important. But as I said, goals and chance creation really important in this clip. And he does. He goes on and scores. Gets to the byline, the cross comes in. And the other thing I really, really like about him, he's not in a rush to get into the right areas. He knows that it's about him arriving late. He does arrive late. And I don't want to make it a Lampard thing, but Lampard would just kind of get there. He wasn't sort of busting the gut to get there. He would just get there at the right time. And in this clip, I got absolutely those kind of vibes from Zirkzee. Arriving late into this space, a space that other players aren't, and they think they're okay, actually, defensively, but he's got a march on them. He's able to get there. He's able to get his contact correct, and the ball is past the goalkeeper before he can even say, wha-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa-pa. Very impressive stuff. So you've got agility there. You've got an inch-perfect pass to the left-hand side with Christensen. You've got great timing of a run and a solid finish as well. But he's always dropping deep. Isn't that a bit one-dimensional? Wait! I'm about to talk about that. He is multi-dimensional. That clip proves it. But the ball here, in this next clip, is in Bologna's third. And you can't even see Zirkzee. And that's why it's good in terms of him being complete and different to most strikers that you'll see out there. Because the ball gets played long. It's another proactive moment from Zirkzee and his movement that, again, we really, really liked. And then the finish is pretty frightening. I'm not gonna lie. So all of a sudden there's just one ball up the field, but they knew where he was and the run was clever. He's been able to stay online as well. And as the ball drops, he is through on goal. This is him here. But obviously he's got a lot of work to do. He's pretty much just in his own half. So can he finish it? Can he do the business? He makes his way through. And what would you expect here? We'd expect just a lovely little hoping for the best. But from a difficult distance, you would imagine the goalkeeper would know that it's going down to that left-hand side. He's probably about to shoot, right? Or is he? No, I've led you down a path there that is incorrect. He actually does something very, very different and incredibly fun. This. sends him for a hot dog, and scores a goal as well. He creates a clearer angle for himself by understanding what his opponent wants to do and having the skills to do what he wants, to manipulate and deceive. There was also one specific reason why we wanted to show this clip as well, because we noticed something with Zirkzee that I don't think we see in many players, and that is his backlift. If you notice how there's not much backlift on the shot, it allows him to take the shot early. And the goalkeeper is in no position to save a low, powerful shot because of this. And in doing this, Zirkzee is always able to get the shot off early. And maybe that's where the Ronaldinho comparisons start to come into play. You can kind of see it with the gate. You can see it with the little backlift. And again, that understanding of what the opponent is doing. Such a clever player. And there's more to come, because I have to show you this assist against Inter Milan, as it shows something that a lot of people are missing, I think, when it comes to Zirkzee, and it's his footwork. So the simple pass here is for Zirkzee to pick up the ball and just play a simple one to Ndoye. That's not what he does. And again, I'm going to have to show you. It's absolutely delightful what he's doing. Again, we've spoken about him dropping deep. I think he obviously suits a possession-based team. But again, if you think about Ten Hag and Man United and this idea of sort of transition, I think if he's got the right runners around him, he could be really, really good fun in a way that maybe Premier League fans would think of, say, like a Harry Kane drops deep and then gets on the ball and then is able to play players in. But I guess with Zirkzee, if you've just got that little bit more dribbling ability as opposed to a Harry Kane, but maybe similar positions. And what he does here is absolute filth. He drops the shoulder and he nutmegs Çalhanoğlu. Look at this. Oh, it's filth. It's absolute filth. Poor Çalhanoğlu. Poor bloke.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how...
But the question a lot of you will be asking is, now what? Because after the nutmeg and starting the drive at the Inter defence, there's no way he can carry the ball from his own half to the opposition box. Zirkzee also understands this, but he continues to carry it for just that little bit longer. And then he gets himself into this position where he can now play a meaningful pass. Is he able to do that meaningful pass? Let's go and have a look. Because yes, of course he absolutely does. Gets on the ball. Knows that people want to... Again, what does everyone else want him to do? Play it there. He wants him to play it there. He thinks he's going to play it there. He doesn't. It's that ability, that technical ability to send Çalhanoğlu and then keep moving, and then all of a sudden you're in behind the opposition and you're going to affect the game. But if you've got to wait for those reinforcements, you've got to know, you've got to have, again, the ability, the quality to dribble with your head up, with your eyes open, and know who's the player I need to get the ball to. We move it along. He just plays off just a very simple pass into the path of Ndoye. Super, super clever stuff. Not too far ahead, just into that pass. But again, he's also not too wide either, so he's got to change his run. He can just step onto it beautifully. Fantastic play that hurts the opposition. Flair, exciting, fun, but meaningful. So he's not just brave enough to try these things, he's skillful enough to pull them off as well. And I think that's where you then have a true game changer when it comes to a striker in terms of being capable to do these kinds of things. And this is where we begin to see what type of player Joshua Zirkzee really is. Because what I'm about to show you, I think, again, it's a similar kind of vibe. It just seriously impressed me. Okay, listen up, because this is where the Weghorst comparisons leave the building and Ronaldinho comparisons continue to make their way in. Now, I'm not saying as good as him. I'm just talking about skills, basic skills. Now, the ball is getting played into Zirkzee here, who's in space, and with his body shape, the natural expectation is that he sort of sets it with his left foot and then hits it maybe with his left foot, or kind of, turning to the right, or maybe even wants to open up, but probably going to get blocked there. He might have to lay it off to the three. But what's he going to do? Because what he does next is just not what you expect. It's so much better than that. As I say, I think people think, oh, he's just going to take one touch here and then try and get, a cheeky wha-pa-pa-pa that way. Or is he just going to turn the other way, go this way and try and get, again, a wha-pa-pa-pa-pa that way? And I think the defender will be ready for that. And I think you can actually see that with the body language of these two here, because he's kind of ready to come and snap out if he needs to, because that he knows that simple pass is going into Zirkzee there. Again, he's ready to go and be tight, but he also probably thinks he's going to open up to this side as opposed to the other side. And what he does next is it's just mental. So instead, he does this. And watch his head. Look at his head. Even his head sails him down the river. His head starts to move that way. Again, his head has sold him that. And then a gorgeous little Cruyff. He's absolutely finished. He sent both those two defenders we were talking about. They are gone. They are out of it. And he scores the goal as well. Mental. That Cruyff turn absolutely bamboozles the opposition in a tight area with so many players around him. The commitment to the deception, the commitment to the skill. It's that Brazilian flair that you associate with Ronaldinho. So again, you can understand the comparisons. But importantly, the best thing is that he scores a goal from that as well. He's so exciting. And I think it's crucial to add that his dribbling isn't just effective in the final third. It can be so useful in transition too, which is what Man United will desperately want. Here he's got the ball back to goal, and there is very little on for him in terms of ways of playing a pass. But this is where you see all of his best attributes come together to form what is a majestic piece of play. Now, firstly, he uses his strength to hold off the defender. You can't always find that space. Defender's going to get to you. So you've got to be able to deal with that and deal with that comfortably. He then uses the sole of his foot to change direction into the only area that has space, which highlights his skill, but also his awareness on the pitch. So he's able to use that little roll back there. Absolutely crucial. But he's got a lot of players around him. He's now facing the way he wants. He's been able to turn there. He's taken 2 players out of the game. And he wants to and can mount an attack for the team. He can see the space that he wants to move into. I would say he wants to drive into this area here. But he's got another problem because he's got another midfielder on his way. And this is where his reputation kind of sells and helps him as well. I often talk about players that kind of create a bubble around them. And also it gets you to kind of second guess yourself. And Zirkzee is that kind of player. So instead of attacking the space directly, he then drops the shoulder with the defender here is actually on his... the midfielder is coming to try and stop him, trying to get back goal side so that he can't get into this space that he would love to get into. And if we move it on one more, when you watch the clip, it's so funny because he knows what Zirkzee is about. He actually plants both his feet for that split second. And the reason he does that, he is now afraid of getting nutmegged because of what he has seen and what videos he would have seen, clips he would have seen, and what he would have seen in-game of Zirkzee. But Zirkzee is able to read his body language brilliantly and take it round him a different way. So instead of going through his legs here, he actually just plays it to the side of him and goes round in a different way because he's got both his feet standing there. There's nothing he can do about it either. And all of a sudden, he's gone round him there and he's on his way and he's driving. He's then free to play a pass to his on-rushing teammate. And that all started from a position where he looked penned in by the Fiorentina midfielders. And I think it speaks volumes, the amount of players that he's now taken out of the game. It's so clever. He's a super intelligent player, and I think with the right system and a team that plays at the right tempo, he could really, really hurt teams. And that's the beauty that Zirkzee has that most strikers in 2024 don't have. Now, let's be honest, this isn't that channel that's just going to go, he's the next Ronaldinho. I'm not saying that. His footwork is a solid way off someone of that quality. But the comparisons come from early shooting, from that elusive first touch, and the physicality that he has and the comfort that he has on the pitch and the intelligence as well. He is definitely one that you have to keep an eye on this season.